so sorry I'm late.
Come on in, Charlie.
Thanks. Hi, Mrs. Davis.
Hi. Everything you need is right on the fridge. And if we don't come back tonight, just make yourself at home. Let's go, we're late.
There he is.
Hey, how's the house sitting going?
Quiet so far. Hazel. Don't touch her or she will scratch you. Looks like I gotta stay.
Whoa, it's Halloween.
Hello?
Don't let the cat out.
Dr. Davis? Somebody there?
Charlie.
Come on, Travis, please help me find this cat.
No, let's go.
No, I need to know I'm not crazy.
Babe, you there?
Oh, it's behind you!
Is that blood on your head?
Does it make it look spooky? Is he the right boy?
He's gonna join our family now.
Well, there you are. Charlie, over here.
Is he dead? What's wrong?
Oh my God.
There we go. Thank you so much, dude, for talking with me. Oh, I've lost you there.
Oh, I said thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem at all, man. So yeah, tell me about, are you going to Fright Fest this year?
I am. We are flying out Wednesday and we get in on Thursday. And excited to chat to hang out again. We were there last year. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, love the UK. Love a full Irish or English breakfast.
Yes. I always think the Irish breakfast is a lot better than the English breakfast, you know. They're very similar. So, man, we're here to talk about your absurd yet really fun horror comedy, Don't Let the Cat Out. Right. The first thing I want to ask, when did you, isn't it Anthony you co-wrote it with?
Yes. I co-wrote it with Anthony.
So
yeah, go ahead.
So when did it go, right, this is the idea for our film? How did that come about? Just crazy idea.
So the impetus, the beginning of it actually came from Anthony. Anthony was working as a house sitter, and he was brought in, and during his, as he's taking care of his house, he found the list of instructions to care for a cat. And mind you, he had never been told that there was a cat. He was wildly allergic. There was no prior conversation. And he would go, and he was very meticulous about doing everything on the list. But the one thing he says is that he never saw the cat the entire time he was at the house. And he went crazy looking for it. And that is where pretty much the first 7 minutes of the film comes from.
Yes.
And then from there, he wrote out this insane script that he based off of a historic house in Old Louisville. And so from there, he kind of goes around. Anthony's a producer, a very successful producer. So he makes a lot of movie of the week projects. And he's always wanted to do a horror film and also, be in it. And so he had approached me while I was actually in Paris. Anthony and I had just previously done a movie called Ladybug that we premiered at Fright Fest last year. And I was editing that, and he was like, "Hey, would you consider doing this film too?" And at first I was kind of like, "Well, I don't know. I'm still in the middle of post." But every time he reached out to me, I was either at the Black Cat at the Chat Noir Cafe in Paris, or I was at a museum looking at some of their cat art. And I said, "Oh, it had to be a sign." So I read the script, And then from there, I started incorporating the themes of grief and the themes of kind of like Evelyn, Serena Vincent's characters, arc, and also Eddie and Charlie's.
Uh-huh. Like
Yeah.
the two, that's a really, really cool story. So it is actually like it was meant to be. If you were in
Yeah.
part and you were seeing all this stuff, it was a sign like that you had to go forward with this cat horror movie. Now the two villains, if you would call them villains, now sort of give me a little bit of a buzz of the couple from The People Under the Stairs.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
did you work along with that idea sort of with The People Under the Stairs or any of those movies that did they inspire those characters?
I think a lot of that comes the characters did come from inspiration from that type of trope of character, but for the most part it was the center of Evelyn and Rodney's character for me were people who were refusing to grieve and kind of the chaos that happens around them. For my personal experience of how I came to that was I was actually doing the rewrite at a time when my grandmother had contracted COVID in the Philippines, and she was, fairly struggling already with her health. And they had induced her into a coma so that they can maintain all the medicines. Now, mind you, my entire family on my mother's side, my grandmother's side, were doctors and medical professionals and scientists. And it was one of those things where it was a general known consensus and scientific opinion that, hey, we're just prolonging the inevitable. But they refused to face it. And it was their inability to separate being a child and this being their mother versus a doctor and this being their patient. And I thought that that was really interesting, on the things and the lengths that we would go in order to try to preserve and avoid the inevitable with the people and with the pets that we love.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, man. That's like, even though these guys are like absolutely batshit crazy, like, everybody can relate in some way to them. They can understand their desperation. And like that really did you mean to give these guys like a sort of really relatable and sympathetic side as well as their villainous side as well?
Absolutely. I think we're all heroes until we make that choice to become a villain.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really wanted to kind of at least capture or take a portrait of that transformation and that thin line that we kind of bridge between, this is my third horror film, and I always am sympathetic to who on screen would be our villain. As you write and you direct and you craft these characters, in a way you kind of justify, or in a way you don't want to judge your characters too harshly, because they were just like you and I at one point until they make that decision to kill, to maim, and to terrorize, And I think maybe growing up with Asian horror cinema, as a Filipino, I always sympathized with the ghost or the spirit, or they were always wrong. Even in Western, like Freddy Krueger, man, sometimes I was like, maybe Freddy wasn't always bad. He kind of came on this, and even like with Pet Sematary, these are the consequences of denying the inevitable human progression in their grief, in their, but yes, Those
Yeah.
are very much themes that I love to visit in these films.
You're very right about, like, you can sympathize with a lot of horror characters, especially in, like, I'm a big fan of Asian horror as well, especially with all, like, the kid ghosts and what they've actually been through and stuff. So there's a justifiable action to what they're doing, you know.
Yes.
So let's go to the actual, what I would call sort of like maybe creature design in it. Like, it sort of gets a little bit dark. There's a lot of Egyptian themes in there, mixed
Yeah.
with a lot of like really crazy colored like dungeon, like almost like a sex dungeon, like a furry sex dungeon. It's an absolutely crazy film, and it's like something that I've never seen before, and it's so simplistic, and yet it's very clever and it's very unique. So I'd say that was a mighty fun putting that all together.
Yes, it was so much fun, and it was so great being able to collaborate with Elizabeth, my production designer, and Caitlin, our art director, and Greg, our practical effects and costumer.
Hmm.
And it was so we wanted to have fun with it. We really focused on this creature is someone they love. And so the mythology was kind of like the way we were able to justify the mysticism of the suit, the possession, and then the human-sized cat den,
Yeah.
if you will, was something that, in my mind, they would be like, well, this clearly we have to provide the same things for our little 10-pound cat, along with our 120-pound cat.
Yeah.
So it was really fun, and that dungeon, the cat dungeon, is actually in the basement of that very same home.
Oh.
And then and which was wild because the stone actually was able to transition into the kind of the ritual dungeon, which was in another location, which actually used to be a storage, a cave storage that they use, I think, for whiskey, because we shot this in Louisville, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And it's where they aged. It's where they aged. It was a massive, massive space, with no windows, and we were filming where it was pretty warm outside, and it was nice and cool inside. So and that was a very much a nice perk, but it was still pretty creepy being that far underground.
And was that easy to get, that place in Kentucky?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Rallis, our production designer, also has such deep connections in the city that she pretty much knows almost everyone. And there would be times where I did another movie with her, and I'm like, Elizabeth, I need a cabin. And she goes, "Oh, I know one." And we'll go there, we'll check it out. Or I need a convenience store and she'll give you options, and we'll check it out. And because with these movies, it's very difficult to build everything from the ground up. Although in Don't Let the Cat Out, there are things that we built, like the closet we built so that we can move the wall away.
Yes.
But for the most part, they have to be found, right? Because it's very time consuming and very expensive to build a set. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was I going to say now? About the house that he's actually did shoot in that was in Kentucky, yeah. And you're saying
Yes.
the list of, like, when he goes into the house and he finds that list, when I seen that, I sort of thought, like, that's got like a bit of a sort of Gremlins vibe to it, with
Yes.
the list. But it's even more interesting that it actually happened in real life. That sort of did happen. And so what has the reception been so far? He's premiered at a Panic Fest, yeah?
Yes.
Panic
We
Fest.
got we premiered in Kansas City at Panic Fest, to a very enthusiastic and raucous horror crowd. I think they love horror, and they are excited for anything different, but also still familiar, because it's like we are paying homage to classics, to a lot of the cat horror, because we wanted it to be aligned with what's established, but at the same time kind of like see, and people were laughing. There are jokes in there. It's meant to be light and thrilling. And at times, hopefully it resonates in a very personal way on how we as individuals deal with the inevitable grief of loss. But yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. It was a great crowd. And as we're taking it to different audiences, it's really fun seeing what people take away from it. But Fright Fest will actually be the second theatrical screening of this that isn't just like controlled screens, if that makes sense. So I'm very excited to see. And Fright Fest is such a savvy audience.
Yeah.
And they are so dedicated to the culture of horror and sci-fi and thrillers. And, I love, after screening a film, hanging out at the pub and getting to chat with people who saw it and what they like, what they didn't like, what worked, what didn't work. As a filmmaker, you kind of grow, every project builds on the last project that you had. And hopefully people, make this their own.
I think Fright Fest is like a perfect home for it. I really do. I think, and I know I was there in attendance. It's a pity we didn't meet up last year. I was there last year, and I know the little pub that you're on about, just outside, and it's about a 2-minute walk from Fright Fest. The little tiny little pub, and like that was my first time in attendance over there, and it was just insane going in there, meeting the filmmakers and meeting fans alike. And it was just like a whole community that I was unaware of even existed in the world. It was so cool. Like, I absolutely loved it. It's focusing more now on the horror and your previous projects. I watched your reel and stuff today. What we did in Miami. Sorry, was that
what happened? What happened in Miami?
In Miami, and then Ladybug and Don't Let the Cat Out is your third feature. Is that now cemented you into? Would you say Tim Cruz is now a horror director?
Well, I actually have another horror film called The Final Rose.
Okay.
And that one is out on Tubi. And The Final Rose is about a young single mom who finds herself on America's Hottest Dating Show. And her quest for love becomes a fight for survival when she realizes that the other contestants go missing. It's Scream meets The Bachelor.
Okay.
And technically, that is the first horror film I did. Don't Let the Cat Out is now my 6th feature film release.
Okay.
So I've done 3 horror films, 2 thrillers, and 1 romantic comedy.
Okay. No, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, so I'd like to say I've diversified, but horror to me is my first genre. And I'll tell you why, because growing up, my mother loved horror films, and she would make me sit down and watch them with her. And it was a lot of fun. We watched Filipino horror, which is shake, rattle, and roll. We watched a lot of Japanese horror, which I'm pretty sure is the makeup of most of my nightmares. And then we watched a lot of Jason and Freddy. And now my mom is more into action films, but she'll still go see it with us and laugh, and and so it's always been my first. And before feature films, I was in music videos.
Okay.
And in music videos, you learn how to control atmosphere and tone, right? The same tools that we use to make a rock star look cool or a hip hop artist look dope is very similar to the same tools we look to get the hairs on the back of your neck to stand up, to how we approach light and a space and all that. And so I think I don't want to say it's easy for me, but I'm more comfortable in horror. And the comedy component basically just adds, because I'm a nervous laugher. When I'm in a horror film, I laugh.
Okay.
I just saw Zach Kreger's Weapons, and it was so funny. Turns out he's a comedian from a comedy troupe, and I think horror and comedy go hand in hand together for my particular sensibility. Yeah.
Yeah, I just watched Weapons there as well. I just went to the cinema to see it on its first showing. Really enjoyed it. I think it was marketed as a far more serious horror film than
Yeah.
what I got. And then at the end, I was like, what the fuck? It took me it's still one of my favorite horrors of the year, but
Yeah.
sort of I wasn't expecting the comedy and I wanted like a more just proper witch horror.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh man, that scene with when Josh Brolin's character is dreaming and then all of a sudden the jump scare ends and he wakes up and he just screams, "What the fuck?" It's like one of those moments where it's like that was a very relatable moment for me.
Yeah, it was so good. I think, but like my favorite of the year so far is Bring Her Back, which there's no. Have you seen that yet? That was just
Yeah.
that
Ooh.
that left me just like that took a part of my soul with me. So I think
Yeah.
I felt devastated. And if I know like your movie, I know when I go in and I watch it, I know it's a horror comedy. But then when I get psyched up for something like Weapons, and plus it was like. Over here we have like the ratings like PG 12, 15, and 18s. So
Hmm.
if something gets an 18 certificate over here, I have
Yeah.
so much respect for it because it's reducing the box office what it
Yes.
can potentially make, as a filmmaker. So when I heard
Yeah.
18s, I was like, this is going to be pure, just absolute mental crazy horror. And then it
Mhm.
was a comedy as well. I still loved it. You know,
Yeah.
it just did. It sort of threw me down. I want to go back a wee tiny bit, man, to Don't Let the Cat
Mm.
Out and the Egyptian
Yeah.
influence, and how did that come around, and why did you choose sort of like the Egyptian sort of ritualistic sort of thing? Do you know what I want with?
Yes. I think it was just curiosity and the mysticism behind and the way they treated the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
I think the embodiment of I mean when they bury their pharaohs, right? They bury them with their things and also their cats and their animals.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
suppose that makes
and
sense.
so yeah, they're kind of guardians for them and they can continue in the afterlife. And so for me, for that one, it was a much more, it made sense. And the imagery and the art, I really wanted to take inspiration from that. Now, whether or not the spells are actually grounded in that, that's kind of like the artistic license that I got to borrow. And also, I think I wanted to do a lot of like, there's a little bit of Asian kind of like influence of reincarnation too, in a way. And so I thought that of all the mythology, I think that one was the most accessible. And
Mhm.
I love mythology. Mythology for me is like the basis for a lot of the horror that I like to approach. Like for instance, one that I am playing with is like Mayan mythology and kind of revisiting that because it's like it's so tied to particular cultures too.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think for me it was like when I think of metaphysical or supernatural cats, I think of Egyptians.
I know. Just as I was asking that question, you said about the cats. I was like, "Oh, of course." It's like the giant cat statues everywhere. It's like it would have to be Egyptian,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely,
And what about the
absolutely.
sound design and stuff?
Yeah.
How was that all created in it? Because there's a lot of like, you know, you have to sort of create a horror sense at the same time.
Yes. Absolutely. And when we approached it, we had some ideas for the design for like I used to play this game when I was younger, Resident Evil.
Love it.
And one of my favorite moments is when you're in the hospital and you notice that there's like a pulse in the background.
Hmm.
And then as you're walking down the dark, creepy hallway, it slowly starts to turn red, and then you realize you're inside a heart. And so the approach for Don't Let the Cat Out was that as you walk and progress down the hallways, Charlie is hearing all the things that are happening around them. But the fact that there's never a point for you to be like, that's where that sound comes from. You're never satiated, or you're never in the sense. And also a lot of the design is from like the interstitials. Growing up, I watched a lot of Ren and Stimpy, and which was this amazing cartoon. And it would be like two-dimensional, and then all of a sudden it would go to a very oil painting close-up of that thing. And so I wanted to incorporate a lot of the design of leading up to those kind of like shocking images. And so it was a great team that we worked with, along with our composer, Brian. And I wanted the sound design to also bleed into his the composition that he made.
Yeah, I was actually going to talk about the composer as well, and how was that sort of, it's got to be sort of like a difficult one to sort of pitch to someone, you know?
Absolutely.
And did he say, it's a guy, yeah? Oh, Brian.
Yeah, Brian.
So he obviously said, well, like, I've never had anything like this to be able to do this before. So challenge accepted, I guess, from him, obviously.
Yeah, Brian Alexander is an amazing. He's an artist, so he's a DJ, and he composes and writes everything. And so I told him I wanted the pace and drawn of like a little bit of 80s electronica, because we were using a lot of purples and blues and kind of referential colors. I wanted the music to match the colors.
Yes.
And so and kind of like he chose to do a lot of muting in there, because we go deeper and deeper into this cave, into the secrets and things like that. And so while maintaining the pulsing heartbeat. And so what's really cool about working and collaborating with other artists is that there is a language that we kind of like refer to. There is, so I will describe a tone or a sense, and he will transcribe that into music. And then he'll send me drafts, and we'll go back and forth. And I really love Brian's take and his taste, and had a lot of trust in how he really built the sound. And also I wanted it to be able to be like, I want to be able to put some of the songs on if I'm sitting alone in a room, and still be able to stand on its own as a work of expression.
And let's talk a little bit before we go here about the actual set design, not the dungeon itself, but it's a pretty crazy setup in the whole house with everything that's just like, alarm bells ring straight away when you go in and you look here. It's like, holy shit, like this is a crazy house. This is a crazy cat couple house. So was
Absolutely.
was it hard getting everything together to build this?
It was a lot of antique shopping.
Oh, right.
but the thing that actually we got lucky with was at the time a lot of the prop houses in Los Angeles were closing. And I believe this particular prop house had a lot of cat figurines and dog figurines for sale.
Yeah, brilliant.
And my wife, who's also an art consultant on this film, is a set decorator. And so she has relationships, and she knew where she could pull certain things from. And we basically started bidding on it, and I think we got a really good deal, Gary. We got a box of about 200 plus figurines for, I want to say, like less than $150.
Oh, wow.
Which is like 120 pounds and we were so lucky, because when we were going to the antique stores, each one of those pieces was like $10 or $15, which we didn't have that money. But what was great was the approach was, from the wide angle, this house just looked like a regular kitschy suburban home. But as you get closer and closer, you saw all the tiny little details of an insane amount of art decoration or cat decoration, and kind of like the obsession. I have a dachshund right now, and my whole home is filled with dachshund photos. We had a pet center one time, And I think she mentioned on her social media, I was like, I think these people worship their dog. And you know what? That's exactly what
Yeah.
that's probably what it looks like because we have so much love for our pets, our animals, or our family that we will put iconography and images of them all over the house and
Mhm.
becomes this obsession, and it's an obsession that can push us over the edge of our moral compass.
Hmm. Just as we're speaking, like, last night my partner was here and she was downstairs when I was doing another interview last night. And tonight I couldn't do it. I've got the dog right here in front of me. I've got another dog
Mm,
underneath my legs, and I've got a cat just right there. So I'm surrounded right now, to be honest, but everybody's being very good. Last
I
night
love it.
jumped up and like, but she's sleeping now in the bed. So I'm very animal orientated myself. I absolutely
Same.
adore my animals, and I've got a turkey out there. I've got some chickens. I've got,
What?
yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're
I
li-
live
you're
in, I
living
live
you're
in this,
living well.
I live in this big, like, I'll email you a photograph of my house. I live in this big 1800s uh,
Whoa.
farmhouse in the middle of the country here in Ireland, and out my back, I have this big giant four-story abandoned mill where
Wow.
someone was murdered in the
Whoa.
1800s and buried in the field. This is all true, man, right? Buried in the field next to me, but he was buried upside down. The people put him in upside down with a pocket watch so he'd never rest in peace. And
Wow.
yeah, man, yeah,
Wow.
absolutely
It's
insane. Insane.
Yeah,
And
think about that. Like the way people were able to justify that decision. If, let's say, you believe that and that is true, that is a w insane way for a group of people to say, this is how we're going to punish this individual.
yeah, yeah,
And then but they all believe that what they're doing is true. But the thing is, there's so much animosity or there's so much vengeance
yeah.
tied into their sense of justice, then does that mean they are now the villains? And so, you
Yes,
know,
exactly. Yeah. It's like a lot of people will be very scared. Now, my partner, she wouldn't be able to like she has to have a light on in this house because it is very, very creepy. And like it was
Understandable.
like the mill when it was functioning, it was like a tax man who was murdered,
Mm,
who wanted to close the mill down, and it was two brothers
mm.
called I think the Matheson brothers or something, but they dropped something on his head and then they done that sort of thing. But it's just in the mill now, in the middle floor of the mill, I have like a big giant Dexter Morgan room built
Yeah.
plastic and completely covered. Well, the blood needs done again, like, but it's all covered in fake blood. And underneath the mill, no one even knew. And I found a tunnel underneath this big
What?
long tunnel. It's like it's about my width, and it's just even my landlord. My dad lived in this house for like 30 years before me. My landlord didn't even know it was there, who owned the house. So you
Whoa.
can walk right. It leads to absolutely nowhere.
So you're probably the first one to visit it since.
Since the 1800s, I think.
Whoa.
Yeah. Above the
I'll
mill,
be
I
the,
think it says 1859, and I know this house
yeah.
was there, I think, very early 1800s, this house.
Wow. That's incredible to me.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh, I love it.
gr- growing up here in the United States, almost everything is new.
Yeah.
The term 1950s. I mean, I live in California.
Hmm.
And so I love when I visit London or Europe and you get to experience places that have existed since the 1700s, 1600s, or I mean, like I don't know what the oldest castle is but in Europe, but it's like you can exist in the same spaces that people did 400, 500 years ago.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't like the house is really old. It could do with a lot of work, but it
Sure.
is just I love it, and I live right next to a big giant river. And I was down there where my dogs just go down, and they
Oh,
swim
that's
away in the
lovely.
river, and like it's private, like
Are
no
is it, are you in Northern or
Northern Ireland.
Ireland?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Northern Ireland in the country. I'm about 15 minutes away from the city, but
Wow.
just a little bit, just enough out of, like, when I say city, my city's absolutely tiny. It's really, really small, but I just live in the middle of nowhere.
Cool.
And I love it, man. It's remarkable. I really do. So
Yeah.
I'm going to try. Well, I've been trying actually at Fright Fest last year. We were outside, like you were saying, after the film's done. Like I started talking to these directors, and Dave, and they were like, "Have you ever written anything?" And I showed them
Yes.
what I had written, and showed them my house, and they were like, "Man, we were going to make a film, but we want to go and make a film now in this place." But nothing has really come of it. But they have texted me saying, "Listen, Gary, you're still getting talked about every Zoom call we make." Because this place, like, you'll lose your mind, man, when I show you the photographs of that.
Yeah, send me the photograph, Gary. We might help you come up with the
Yeah,
right story for that.
definitely, man. But yeah, man, we'll wrap it up. And yeah, thank you very much, dude, for having a lovely chat with you. And
Same.
not only is your film funny, as I said, a lot of, like, as animal lovers ourselves, it's a very relatable. One of my dogs just farted, and yeah. So it's very relatable. There's a lot of heart to it. It's funny. It's gross. It's just absurd, and it's everything. I'm sure it's going to be a big hit at Fright Fest, man.
Oh, thank
I
you.
wish you
Thank you, Gary.
all the best. And yeah, I'll send you some of these photographs, man, online here,
Yes, please.
and you'll be prepared now. I'll send you my kill room and all that I've designed as well.
Yes, send it.
It just
And-
no, like, my landlord actually came to board up the windows in the mill not so long ago, and I had to say to him, "Now you're going to go in there, and there's going to be a big plastic room, and it's going to be covered in blood." And he's like, "Yeah." And I actually seen he had two guys working with him, and the looks I got, man, from these guys, they were like young teenagers. So
Oh,
probably known as like the scary guy in the old mill.
that's brilliant. And you keep that legend. You hold on to that legend, Gary. And thank you again. Thank you so much for watching the film and talking about it. It is such a joy and a thrill to be able to experience this with folks like you, and we get to talk about why we love horror films so much.
That's what it's all about, man. So that's what Movie Hooker's about. It's about hooking people up with stuff to watch, and also this is my passion. I've worked in movie stores my whole entire life, and this is like the next level for me, So now I get to talk to the actual filmmakers. Usually I sold movies. Now I get to talk with people.
I love it. I love it. I'm always at my local video store here. It's called the Videotech, and it is. If you ever come to Los Angeles, we got to go check it out. It's like one of my favorite collections of cinema out there.
I'd say, like, oh man, video stores, there's just none anymore over here. But I'm hoping that we're going to get like a resurgence, like vinyl back in, and I will
physical
be there.
media.
Yeah, physical media, man. I love it, and
Same.
I will be ready on the front line for a little shop once it does come back round, man. But listen, man, we're going to run out of time here. And Tim, thank you so much for chatting again, bro. And yeah, I'll send you those photographs. Best of luck at Fright Fest as well, man.
Thanks, Gary. Have a good one.
Man, you too, bro. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.